Okay, I think we're live. Yep, yep. Okay, same as always. Wait for the chat to fill up a little bit. Get some stories going in the meantime. See what headlines we can find. Okay, 3 people in the chat already. Oh, G-Man, straight away. Salute. Salute to you as well, my friend. Might be over in London next week. Okay, cool. Yeah, keep me updated then. And just drop me a message. And I don't think I'm doing too much next week. It's not as busy as this week, that's for sure. So yeah, defo. If you want to do something, um, got Joe Stunner as well. Good evening. Good evening to you, Joe. Hey, what should we start with? That is, I'm easy. I'm easy. I'm actually just looking for some headlines now. I don't think there seems to be particularly that much boxing on this weekend. I know Prograis is defending his title against Zoria. I'm not sure what else there is. Um, yeah, hence this one. Bit of an aimless chat, as the title says. But how you doing, Joe? All good, I hope. G-Man says Tyson Fury being more over the hill than we think, or how would Peter have handled this whole situation? Um, yeah, I think the first person to float that idea was Hatman, because he did that video on what Alan Babish has said about how when he was in camp with Fury, he was just apparently riddled with injuries, and I suspect that there's probably some validity to that. I don't know if it's going to be the main contributing factor, but I do think it is one nevertheless, because you have to factor in, like, purely by virtue of the fact that Tyson Fury's been pro for what, 15 years, I want to say. Did he turn pro in 2008? And he hasn't exactly had an easy career. He's had a lot of rough fights, and I'm sure even more rough training camps. So, and it's no secret Tyson Fury hasn't looked after his body, and as well, he's just a massive unit of a man. So, just look at Tyson Fury's body. Like, when I was silly story, but I was I was deciding a thumbnail for this live stream, because I wanted to do something that would, a bit of a meme. And there's this picture of Tyson Fury from, I don't know, 2012 or something like that, and he's standing by a beach, I think, and you can see his whole body's in the shot, and his legs. People, Tyan Booth says that Coogan's got bent legs. They are, you know, straight as a ruler compared to Fury's legs, because they are bent. Just imagine a guy with as poor mechanics as Fury, even though Fury is quite fluid. Imagine him pounding the pavement mile after mile, day after day, and lead up to a fight. He's bound to get injured. So, yeah, I suspect that Fury, he's certainly not in his prime, by no means. It's just he's in his financial prime right now. That's what we're seeing. I think prime Fury was really Klitschko back in 2015. Um, I feel like that's the best version of Tyson Fury. Uh, and he's had some good performances. Like, I'd say after that's probably Fury against Wilder the second time around, because that was a really good, complete performance by Fury, and he looked very sturdy, looked healthy, looked strong. But that's against Wilder, you know, very particular style. But yeah, I certainly think that Fury's probably got some injuries that he's carrying, and Definitely choosing his battles wisely at this point in his career. Regards to how Peter would have handled the situation, I don't know. Although Peter Fury does seem to come across as having a bit more integrity um, than Tyson and especially John. But at the end of the day, would he? Would that be him? Say if he's still working with Fury with Tyson, and he was to kind of out Tyson for ducking Usyk and whatnot, would he be willing to throw Tyson under the bus like that, even if Tyson was still his charge? Um, but I don't know. Peter Fury's always struck me as a bit of a kind of hardliner, no nonsense guy. So, but then again, if Tyson had stayed with Peter, would he even be on this trajectory at all in his career? Who knows? Maybe he would have cleaned out the division. You know, it's interesting to think, but ultimately it's just speculation. And there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. But yeah, I reckon Peter he definitely got more integrity than Tyson and John, especially. Joe, there's a York Hall card on with Fraser Clark on Friday. Yeah, yeah, I saw that. That's a Sky card, isn't it? Fraser Clark versus Marius Wack. And I think uh, Caroline Dubois, is she on there as well? Those are the only names that I know of on it. But I feel like there's one more person actually who I'm forgetting. Vidal Riley, that's it. Yeah, this card, Sky really has nosedived a little bit. They've had such bad luck with people pulling out, and Fraser Clark versus Marius Wack main event, and now for York Hall, that's fine, but for Sky, is this their equivalent of like a next gen show? Because Fraser Clark 6-0, Aaron McKenna 16-0, Caroline Dubois 6-0, Vidal Riley 8-0, Isaac Chamberlain 14-2. Yeah, this smacks of a next gen card. And yeah, that fits. That fits York Hall perfectly. What is York Hall like? Is York Hall even 1,000 people? I don't even know if it's 1,000 people. It might be, but York Hall's tiny, and hence I don't think there's a bad seat in the house at York Hall. But Sky are really tanking a little bit recently. But hey, that's it's their problem, not mine. No, maybe it could be interesting, I suppose. But yeah, I might check on the highlights. Didn't I'm looking at this Vidal Riley versus Anis Taj fight? Didn't he already fight that guy? Yeah, this is a rematch. Well, what's the point of this fight then? Can someone give me some context? Because I haven't followed it particularly closely. But if Vidal Riley is just beating this Anis Taj guy in 4 rounds last time, what's the point of them having a rematch? I think I saw highlights of that. I just can't remember it. Um, uh, Bit of trivia as well. Once upon a time, me and Vidal Riley were actually at the same amateur club. Yeah. So your boy gets around a little bit. Um, Mike, good evening, man. Hope you're well. Yeah, I'm good, Mike. Thank you. I hope you're all right as well. Still strange we haven't had an announcement yet with Usyk versus Dubois. Yeah, a little bit strange. Don't know what's really going on with that. To be honest, these days I don't really have much energy to kind of follow these things up because it just seems like I don't want to sound like a downer, but it just seems like even fights that should be easy to get made, it just takes forever for the announcements to the official announcements to come out. But I I imagine that the fight will be going ahead. Um, but hey, look, boxing is a strange thing. Maybe we have a situation where I don't know Dubois gets cold feet or something. I'm not saying I believe that's the case. I'm just saying maybe that's what's happening. I don't know, but yeah, it is a little bit strange. But it just seems to really be the case with a lot of fights these days. Do you believe Tyson runs as much as he says? Someone 6'9" doing road work is asking for trouble. I wouldn't put it past him, just because boxing is a very dogmatic sport. It's not, in terms of mainstream sports, it's probably, I want to say, the least forward thinking. So you still get guys, and even if their joints are being absolutely demolished and their bodies are being just torn apart and abused by the old school training that they do, they'll still carry on doing it anyway because they believe it's just like a rite of passage, or it's part of the process. No, that's nonsense. And I know I have a bit of a bias because I'm very much in the S&C realm, but boxing, because I say that from the perspective, I say this from the perspective of someone who's gone through all of that old school boxing training. And a lot of the times it's just not worth it because it's tied to the kind of the dogmatic expectation of how a boxer is supposed to prepare. Um, but yeah, as I say, I wouldn't put it past Tyson Fury to be a fighter who does have that mindset of, oh, if it hurts, it means it's working. No, if it hurts, it means you're probably going to cut your career short, and you should train via other means. Joe says, I think Peter would have bailed out a long, long time ago. Yeah, probably. Probably. But he could have been getting his pocket lined nicely, so who knows? It's all speculation, really. Heavyweights have been spending the last year trying to separate Saudi investors from their money with no success as of now. It seems like that, yeah. Over the past couple of years, it's just been more and more, more and more. Oh, going to Saudi Arabia, getting the fights to Saudi Arabia. There's some Saudi prince who wants to fund it. And look, ultimately, if it takes a Saudi prince and his stupid amount of money to get these fights done, then I'm just going to say, hey, thanks very much. I can't wait for the fight. But is that what it takes these days, where these guys, these fighters, they think they're worth like hundreds of millions? Or so. Like, saw Teofimo Lopez do a Tyson Fury the other day. Say, oh yeah, I might be retired and I'm only going to come back for 100 million. Please, let's not make that a thing in boxing. Let's not make it a thing. Um, yeah, it's that'd be very frustrating. But hey, if ultimately it's these Saudi investors, it's their money. But let's just hope that the the pay-per-view prices don't go too high. Yeah, York Hall's great. Been there a couple of times. I'm sure mostly, like, there's 8 of us in the chat, but in case you haven't, whenever you get a chance to go to York Hall, do it because you'll not be disappointed. Um, I wonder how much of the downward spiral of Sky has to do with the mysterious disappearance of Adam Smith. There was friction between Smith and Shalom. It sounds like and it looks like the wrong man won. Yeah, see, that is obviously something that seemingly unresolved, as you say. It's still really a mystery. But Adam Smith, was he really the glue at Sky? I don't know, but to be honest, I feel like Shalom at Sky. No, let me rephrase this. Eddie Hearn at DAZN now is not in a great place at all. But Shalom at Sky, I don't think he's really doing that much better. And then when you compare it to Eddie Hearn at Sky, completely different ballgame. Eddie Hearn at Sky, as cheesy as it sounds, that was game changed because that was really, I want to say, the most recent glory days. Bit of a weird phrase, but just think back to, I don't know, 2014 through to 2018, especially. Matchroom at Sky was just a machine. Great fights a lot of the time. There's still some duds, but good fights, good fight nights. And obviously, it comes down to the fighters that are under their banner. And maybe Sky just don't have the strongest fleet of fighters at the moment. As I say, like this upcoming Sky card, Fraser Clark, Caroline Dubois, Vidal Riley, Isaac Chamberlain, Hassan Azim. Those are a lot of their biggest names, dare I say, and they're like next gen level names. I know there are other fighters, but uh, there are quality fighters and then fighters with big profiles, and it just seemed like when Eddie Hearn was at Sky a couple of years ago, it was a mixture of both. He had the good fighters that were high profile, and there were good fights being made. But maybe I'm looking back with rose tinted glasses, but I'm pretty sure those were good years, and there's a definite uh, a big difference, a bit of a chasm between Ben Shalom at Sky, Eddie Hearn at Sky. Um, G-Man says Riley one sound two, no idea why they're doing it again. Sky Matchmaker is awful. Yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher, that one. Maybe they just can't find an opponent for Riley, so it's, oh yeah, chuck him in with this guy again. TNT Saudis want that huge heavyweight event. No, you would want them to bankroll such an event, which they will not. Who would spend hundreds of millions for effing boxing? I don't know. Depends how much they like it. To be honest, if you're imagine December comes around and we actually do get Usyk versus Fury and Wilder versus AJ on the same night. It's not my money, but that strikes me as a hundreds of million, or let's say $100 million night of boxing. That's real high level stuff. That's a real high quality product. But anything less than that, because that's undisputed the most meaningful fight in the division. And then Joshua versus Wilder, probably the most exciting, the most dramatic potential fight in the division. So that's a big deal having those two fights in one night. Um, I reckon, as I say, I think that probably is worth 100 million, but not my money, of course. Joe Stunner says the York Hall capacity is 1,200. There's not a bad seat in the house. Yeah, it is. And sometimes towards the end of the night, they've had so many ring entrances at York Hall, and the smoke just stays there. And it's like a real old fashioned smoker venue where there's like smoke over the ring. And you just wonder, like, is this interfering with how the fighters are fighting? Yeah, great venue. And usually dirt cheap. If you get tickets for like a Friday night or a Saturday night show, yeah, peanuts. Especially if you know someone who's fighting on the card, um, you could probably get tickets for £20, and you're going to be getting what 15, 20 fights. Some of them actually quite good fights as well. 286 Project. Apparently, Jay Opetaia has been ordered to defend his belt against Richard Ugakpo next. Yeah, I saw that earlier today. I was tempted to do a video on it, but I figured I'd do a live stream instead. Um, I favour Opetaia in that matchup. Richard Riakporhe, I've never been impressed by. Um, he's very tense, at least when I've seen him. And I think a style like Opetaia, who, uh, Opetaia, he has I don't want to say amateurish, but he's not the most, doesn't have the most professional style, but he's a very effective. And I just want him to fight more often, to be honest, because that performance against Maris Breedis, I was really sold on Opetaia because of that. Um, and Richard Gakpo, he's gradually stepping up. He's doing his thing, so I can't, hold it against him. Um, but yeah, I just think too tense. Maybe he could make it a rough fight and use some physicality, but for the most part, I think Opetaia will probably not cruise to a points decision, but he'll definitely secure one. Um, Yeah, I think it's a good fight though. Nevertheless, I think it's a good fight, and yeah, even though it's champion versus challenger, they're both still on the come up. Jay Pataya still trying to earn his stripes, especially as a champion. And yeah, I'd say bring that fight on next. G Man says, I think Shalom at Sky is worse now than DAZN close, but DAZN, yeah, that's it. DAZN's is ever so slightly better, ever so slightly, um, but not. The thing is with DAZN, I just find it dry. I just find it so dry. Their fight nights dry, and that's when they happen because DAZN fight nights are so few and far between. And then there's the atmosphere as well. It's just a bit. Ugh, I don't know. Like the commentary team have a on DAZN have a way of sucking the energy out of a stadium fight. Like thinking about Warrington versus or Lara versus Warrington 2. And that was obviously uh was it Ellen Road that in Leeds. That's a decent sized stadium. And a stadium fight always has a kind of buzz. But the DAZN team just suck the life out of it, I find. Um and I've always been a little bit picky with commentary teams. Like there's very few commentators that I like, but DAZN, they're just not the one at all, in my opinion. Yimmy. Thoughts on Canelo versus Badu Jack? Canelo jumping up 2 weight divisions or close to 32 pounds to fight for the WBC cruiserweight title. Jack's a good boxer and puncher. Um, yeah, Jack, I guess you could say he's kind of enjoying a bit of an Indian summer in his career, but I imagine Canelo would probably beat him. Um, yeah, tricky one, but Badu Jack, he's a big guy. He is a big guy, but a little bit basic maybe. Um, but that being said, Canelo, I feel like maybe he's coming to the latter stage of his career. G-Man asked about Tyson Fury and whether he's maybe over the hill. I suspect that Canelo probably is now. I just think Canelo's starting to look a little bit jaded. But then there's Badu Jack as well, who himself is probably a bit jaded. And obviously he beat Makabu for the belt. But Makabu's jaded. Like these are just even more jaded, really. But if that fight happened next, just out of pure curiosity, I'd rather see Canelo fight Jack than Canelo fight a rematch against Bivol. I think Canelo fighting Bivol in a rematch is largely pointless. Um, and all this talk about Bivol going to 168, and I think it was really Bivol who started that and floated that idea first. I think that's even more silly. It's just like, why? I'm sure Bivol probably could get down to 168 because he's not a massive guy. I've Another bit of random trivia. I've actually seen Bivol in person, and he's not big at all. Like he looks like an average guy. He's probably 6 foot, maybe a shade under, very average build, not particularly broad in the shoulders. Looks like your average guy. Um, so yeah, he probably could get down to 168, but it's just what's the point? Why not just focus on becoming undisputed at light heavy? Yeah, I don't really see that happening anyway, but that's off on a tangent. Yeah, I don't mind seeing Canelo versus Badu Jack. I'd favour Canelo slightly. Um, if Jack's got a decent amount left, he could probably make it difficult, but I'd have to watch more of Jack. I didn't actually see the entirety of his fight against Makabu, but yeah, I don't mind it, to be honest. It's a interesting enough matchup for me to be somewhat curious. Uh, I've heard through certain sources that Smith has gone for good. Oh dear. We're not going to hear, it's a mouth-watering clash. Hearn is losing vast amounts of DAZN's money, but is still putting on good cards. Shalom's inexperience is shown at Sky. Yeah, that's a good point actually about Shalom's inexperience. This guy's came out of the woodwork, really. All of a sudden, there was this vacuum at Sky, and he just came in and filled it. It's like, what? Ben Shalom? Who's that? But yeah, that's with the DAZN cards. Some of them are okay, but they're just not frequent enough. That's my issue. Like I said this in my video a few months ago about the price increase of DAZN. I don't actually have a problem with it. As far as I'm concerned, it was it was inevitable it was going to happen. All services do that, but it's just the content's just not there really. Um, but yeah, we're only halfway through the year. Who knows what's going to happen? What fights are going to be made? Yimmy, because of the huge site fee and split broadcasters, we'd be looking at £50 pay per view. Fury versus Usyk and Joshua versus Wilder would be about £30 standalone pay per view. That mega combo card would be. You know what? If we're talking £30 to £50 for Usyk versus Fury and Joshua versus Wilder on the same night, personally, I don't mind paying that. I wouldn't have an issue paying that because, as I say, I see that as a premium product. And yeah, maybe it could be a bit better. Maybe Joshua could look better in the lead up to a Wilder fight. But that would be me nitpicking. £30, I'd pay that easily. £50, bit more of a stretch, but if I'm guaranteed those two fights, me personally, I'd be inclined to do that. Yeah, just being honest. Um, I'll never go to a DAZN press conference again. Much prefer Warren ones. Even though Warren doesn't supply any water bottles, G-Man. Was that it? I think I remember you telling me that. I would say DAZN's output is far better than Sky. It's personal taste, but I really enjoy the foreign cards too. Some of the Golden Boy ones are very much overlooked. Yeah, that's true. I've never been blown away by the Golden Boy ones, but I think they make up for the quality with volume. They have like a whole bunch of fights on there. Like I remember when Canelo was fighting, when he was under Golden Boy, it'd usually be his main event, then like a decent co-main, and then the rest was just like, who's he? But there was just so many of them that the card would just be going for 8 hours or something like that. 286 Project, both Sky and DAZN's presentation is poor, bar a couple of exceptions, presenters and commentators who just try. Yeah, I agree. But as Joe said, it comes down to personal taste. Maybe I'm just too high maintenance. Maybe I'm one of these old head boomer types who just everything's great in the past. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it comes down to what you like. Isn't that's what Adam Smith says, it's what you like. Adam Smith bingo. Adam Smith has mysteriously disappeared for a while. Do you think Fraser Clark will be maybe British champion? I think he could probably reach British champion, yeah. Because him versus Fabio Wardley could say it's a 50-50. So he could realistically become British champion, in my opinion. How much chance do I give Whack in a Clark fight? Whack's a unit. I reckon if he caught Fraser Clark on the tip of the chin, he'd take him out. But is he going to be able to do that at 43 years old? Probably not. Probably not. But stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened. We'll just have to see, I suppose. But yeah, I'd say Clark should be winning this. I feel like that's probably why they've picked Vac, is because they know he can beat him. But we'll see tomorrow night, I suppose. Yeah, all right. Managed to keep up with the comments. Let's take this one off. This probably isn't going to be the longest one. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not as fluent as I usually am. I'm a little bit tired. It's been a long week already. Ugh. And I'm just really a bit bored, to be honest. Hence why I did this live stream. So I just want something to do. I see Wack taking Clark the distance, giving him a rough ride. Yet to be impressed by Clark. Don't think he could get beyond British title. Yeah, same. And I think it's really quite telling because Clark, as far as I know, he was on the GB team for a long time, but he was always second and third best to, well, he was third best to Joshua and Joyce. and it was only when they turned pro that he really had a chance to come through. And so you're not necessarily he's not necessarily going to have the career and the same highs as they did. Because obviously AJ did pretty well, becoming unified champion. Um, Joe Joyce was doing well, slipped up against Zhang, which we'll get to see a rerun of that in September. And now you kind of have the third generation of GB heavyweights in Fraser Clark, and he's probably going to do the worst out of the three. But then I suppose it depends who his contemporaries are. But even then, him against Fabio Wardley, as I say, I think that's a 50-50. Him against David Adelaye, I'd probably favour Adelaye in that one. Um, Internationally, Jared Anderson, yeah, I think he's beaten Clark. Uh, who else is there? Makhmudov, he'd beat Clark, I think. Um, who else? Yeah, they probably all beat Fraser Clark. And maybe I'm just being so harsh on Fraser Clark, but that's just how I weigh up personally. Fraser, Fraser the Eraser, Fraser the Eraser. Imagine that. Imagine being named after a stationary item. Fraser the Eraser. It's pretty funny. Big phrase. He should definitely stick to that. Fraser the Eraser. All right. Headlines. Yeah, Prograis fighting on the weekend as well. Not really a great fight. He was supposed to fight Liam Parrow, wasn't he? Um, that would have been. I say that would have been a better fight, probably. Although I had a little look at Zorilla. I believe he's Puerto Rican. He doesn't look too bad. Like, he's not terrible. I expect Prograis to win and probably clean him out, probably early as well. But he's not useless. What's his record though? I think his name is Danielito, Little Daniel. Prograis. There we go. I like Prograis. People ask me like, which fighters I like to watch. Prograis is probably one of my favorite fighters. Um, I just like his style. Like when you describe Prograis, it's like, okay, um, southpaw, slick, good defense, power in both hands, good counter puncher, accurate, seems to have a good chin, decent work rate. That's just a handful, man. I guess the only thing he's really got going against him is his age, and he's been pro for a while. I first, when did I first? What's the first fight I saw of Prograis? Um, I think it's 2017. I think it was this Yoel Diaz Jr. fight around that kind of time, and I was impressed. I liked Prograis styles. Yeah, it's good, and I thought he beat Josh Taylor as well. Um, yeah, and I just remember in that fight when he planted that left hand counter on Josh Taylor's eye and just blew it up instantly. That was brilliant. Good fight. That I was really looking forward to that one. Yeah, Danielito Zorilla, 17 and 1, 13 KOs. All right, so on paper, he looks, it's not looking too bad. And his style, you can tell he's got that kind of Puerto Rican style, hands quite high, uses those kind of those head feints looking to set up to the body. But um, yeah, the records is thin. It's thin. He lost to Arnold Barbosa Jr. Pretty sure Barbosa is Spanish for slug. I may be wrong, but I think memory serves me correctly. Um, me rambling to myself. Yeah, David Morrell looks good. Looks good. I think I first saw him fight like 2021, and he looks decent. Um, I want to watch him a bit more closely, like really inspect his style and stuff before I go out and say, "Oh yeah, this guy's the future." But he's clearly talented and looks to be yeah, quite vicious. I think it's fair to say. Uh, yeah, Reese asks if Jololov's still active. Um, I believe that Jalolov is fighting as an amateur. Let me just double check that, but uh, I think that is the case with him. Hence, he hasn't had many uh, pro fights recently. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the case. Maybe one of you guys can correct me. Um, yeah, there was headlines of him talking about going to Paris next year. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I think once you've turned pro, you should just stay pro. I don't like how these fighters, pro fighters, early in their careers, when they're kind of undecided. Oh, I think I'm just going to go back to the amateurs. Nah, I think that's nonsense. I think you have to commit one way or the other. Um, and to be fair, Jalalov, I'm not entirely sold on him yet. Uh, I've watched a fair few of his fights. He's good, experienced, very polished, but I don't know if he's really going to be that guy at heavyweight. And once again, it depends on who his contemporaries are, but I'm just not entirely sold. Um, yeah, Reese, he might be a handful, but I don't know if he's going to be that standout guy. But maybe I'm selling him short. Maybe I have to do a bit more homework and check him out. I think he's definitely going to do something, but I'm just not entirely 100% sold yet. Excuse me, guys. I'm just going to adjust myself. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, Joe, Curtis Harper, the guy who left the ring against a Jagba, right? I think I don't think I caught that fight. Uh, Mate, I'm barely watching boxing these days. I really got to get back into it. Um, but I don't know, just so few hours in a day. Just got to be selective which fights you watch. That being said, though, I managed to catch pretty much all the major fights from the weekend. I watched Sonny Edwards. I watched that one live. Can't say I was particularly enthralled by that fight. It was just uh, Sonny Edwards. I get it. Like he's flashy, he's slick, he's talented. But I personally, I'm not a massive fan of showboating, especially when it's overdone quite a bit. It's just like, okay, come on, let's just get this show on the road. Um, yeah, saw that one. That whole card was pretty poor, I think. Um, what other fight was there? Of course, Teofimo Lopez versus Josh Taylor. Really, dare I say, an easy win for Teofimo Lopez, and quite impressive. But I'm sure you guys have probably seen my post fight video for that one. I thought, yeah, Tio did himself proud in that one because I was one of the people saying, oh, I don't know if he's there mentally, but and it was a rough start. It was a rough start for Tio where Taylor was really doing everything he could to try and bully Tio and impose himself, and it didn't pay off. Tio stayed calm. He was steadfast. He was kept cool, and then just went on to outbox Josh Taylor with relative ease. And in the last round, looked like he could get Taylor out of there. So yeah, Tio, pat on the back to you, my friend. Um, and then Mungia versus Derevianchenko. That fight was just wild. From the opening bell, that fight was crazy. But that was a good scrap. Mungia is just he's just so I don't know, like I don't want to be insulting, but he's just so like simple. Um I don't know, like even the look, even the way his face looks, you just like, is this guy? What is his mental age? He just looks like a child, and he kind of has like I don't know, like a child's enthusiasm. Like he just doesn't care what's going to happen. He just dives in head first, gets stuck in, and yeah, that was a close fight though. I can't remember what I scored it. I know I definitely at halfway point I had it a draw. I had it 3 apiece. I can't remember the rest of the scorecard I had, but yeah, good fight. So that's that's unlike me to catch all the boxing, all the main events in one weekend. Oh, doing overtime, fellas. Um, what's next for Yoka and Takam? Takam will probably keep on fighting. He always gives a pretty good account of himself, so that means he'll secure some more paydays. Yoka, yeah, Yoka was this guy. I don't want like hindsight's 2020, but I was never impressed by Yoka in the Olympics. Not impressed as a pro. Not impressed. Um, and yeah, he's just been broken down on two occasions now, and just I don't know, like I don't think, yeah, I just don't think Yoka's cut out for it. Not the pro game, certainly not. Um, I just don't think he's that talented. He's a big guy, that's all. Um, but that's the thing. There are a lot of big guys in the division. And some of these big guys are talented and explosive and skilled. Yoka's just nah, man. He's just not there. I don't think. Joe had it 114, 113 to Mungia. Great fight. Yeah, it was. Yeah, barn burner that one. All right, guys. Probably going to go for another couple of minutes. Just round it off to like 45 minutes. Um, Bacoli versus Takam. Yeah, I'd probably pick Bacoli to win, but Takam's a tough guy. Um, Personally, I'd like to see Bacoli probably have a rematch with Kuzmin because I'm in the camp of people who thought that Kuzmin actually won. So I think Bacoli's got some unfinished business. Um, or maybe Bacoli versus his boogeyman in Michael Hunter. Although Hunter's made a series of very odd business choices and just seems to be paying with his career, or paying for it with his career rather. Um, yeah, it's a shame because Hunter I feel could turn over some of the big guys, and it's ironic how uh, Hunter and Usyk are kind of seen as um, they're the small guys at heavyweight, quote unquote, but they're two of those guys who are likely to spring some pretty big upsets. And they both fought at cruiserweight, and it was a decent fight. Like especially early on, I remember Hunter. I remember watching that fight, and I think that was in April of 2017. And the previous fight was when Alexander Usyk had fought Tabiso Machunu, and he looked good in that Machunu fight because Machunu, like 5'7" or something, built like a tank, fights well, quite well up close and at range. But Usyk, who's just towering over him, just beat him up on the inside. It's like, wow, the way this guy shortened his shots up and took out the smaller man from up close, really impressive. And then I remember thinking, in this Michael Hunter fight, Usyk's not looking great. But then there were times where he was just absolutely drilling Hunter on the ropes. And it was just like, why isn't Hunter's team thrown in the towel? That man is being pasted right now. But yeah, that was probably one of Usyk's hardest fights, at least in those early rounds where he was getting outboxed by Hunter, but showed his class. And now these guys are the ones who seem likely to score some upsets in the at heavyweight now. But yeah, all right, people. It's a short one tonight. As I see, it's quiet. There are only 6 of us or 6 of you. I'm actually a little bit tired, but it's been fun early evening. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of it. It's Friday tomorrow as well, leading on to the weekend. But yeah, as always, thank you for joining me for this live stream. And I guess I'll catch you on the next one, on the next video. So Take it easy, fellas, and I'll chat to you then.